Border the question of inclusion. Now, there is one by Olarinde Farayola, who is hearing impaired, as the person has identified. And it's asking the question that what is your government going to do regarding disabilities? How is your government going to ensure that disabled people are taken care of, and the fact that somebody is disabled doesn't mean that they can't have a good life? Now, another question about inclusion is saying that what are the incentives that your government will put in place to bring members of the diaspora back home to help either the government or the industry?
First, let me deal with the question of the disabled. We have our social security scheme covers social security for the disabled who are poor, and of course for the elderly who are poor. So for the disabled who are poor, there is social security. But in dealing with the general issue of disability and the way in which we intend to deal with that, we intend to proceed with legislation. Some APC states already have special needs or disabilities legislation. Lagos State, for instance, has taken the lead in this. And what some of that involves is in ensuring minimum standards, set minimum standards in buildings and in transportation and in car parks for dealing with people, for ensuring that people with disabilities are taken care of. For instance, the provision of ramps and other facilities in buildings is standard. It's now legislation. It's now part of legislation in Lagos State. So new buildings, especially public buildings, must have these standards and must enforce these standards. Also, transportation. In public transportation, 1 out of every 10 seats must be reserved for disabled people. Parking also, 1 out of 20 public parking spaces must be reserved for disabled people. This is already legislation in Lagos, and of course, we intend that this legislation become a national legislation. But with national legislation, of course, national legislation only provides a template or standard setting, because every state must domesticate this. So all that the national can do is provide guides, provide a standard that all the states are then supposed to go by. So that's, generally speaking, what we intend to do about the disabled. In other words, creating opportunity and facilitating their lives such that it's easier for them to be able to live their lives in a healthy and at least acceptable way. The other thing with respect to disabilities is the special needs program. Now, what you find is that several of the special needs schools that we have at the moment, we have very, very few special needs schools. But the APC's plan is to improve the numbers and to actually have more special needs schools and to create a curriculum for special needs. At the moment, we're working with, just on Friday, on Thursday, as we were in a meeting with several private sector individuals who are interested in education and in promoting education in Nigeria and working in different areas of education. And one of the big areas for us is special needs, and we're working to develop a curriculum for special needs children. Even autism, because autism is generally well known in developed parts of the world, but in Nigeria, it just hasn't come to the fore as a problem that can be dealt with and can be dealt with through appropriate teaching and appropriate teaching methods. And we're working on that. We're working on those kinds of special needs. And also working on scholarships for the disabled and for different types of incentives and different types of special help for disabled children and for disabled people generally. So our whole program on disabilities is a big one. As a matter of fact, our one of the key components of the APC's very diverse membership is the disabilities group. I don't know how many people have seen the work they've been doing, promoting the APC campaigns and doing a lot of work with respect to the APC. And part of it is because they recognize that this is a platform that sees the need to address the concern of the disabled. As a matter of fact, last week was my birthday, and the central exactly a week today, I'm still accepting birthday presents. And the key theme of what I did was to work with what's behind us? Oh, right there. To do some work with disabled people who play basketball, and my wife and I have been committed and have committed to continue to work with in the area of disabled sports, especially. So we think that this is a big area, very important, and it's an area that we try to work on. Now, the diaspora issue and bringing in people to work, our friends and brothers and sisters in the diaspora, I think one of the critical issues is in ensuring that Nigeria works effectively. And I think that without ensuring that the country is running, well, nobody really wants to come. And that's the issue. The reason why you're here is not because there are no opportunities we've identified. It's because you just don't think that you can take those opportunities and use them to advantage, given the state of affairs as they are. And that's why we think that we need to do a lot of things. We need to clean up the business environment. For example, look at medical care. We need to deal with some of the critical issues around medical care. Medical tourism is big in India. India also has a large diaspora community, but they didn't just come as Red Cross or as health agencies. They came looking out also for business opportunities as well as important areas to contribute to their society. So we think that we need to ensure that the environment works in terms of investing in medical care. One of the reasons why we're looking at our universal healthcare insurance and funding the healthcare industry and participating and collaborating with the private sector to clean up that healthcare sector is because we expect that Nigeria can become a hub for medical tourism in the same way that India has become one. And that we were light years, we were well ahead of India in terms of medical resources, especially medical expertise and all of that. And all of a sudden that seems to have been reversed. So we think that creating the right environment will help many to come and work in Nigeria. We've also been looking at a program. There's a program which we talked about quite a bit, which is Nigerian professionals in diaspora coming to work in specialized areas for 1 month in the year and being paid the equivalent of what they earn in Naira, during that 1 month period, and basically just trying to improve manpower around critical areas such as technology, medicine, and engineering, and teaching also in the area of teaching, especially teaching at the basic levels and secondary levels. We think that a lot will be required in those areas. Our 1 month a year program, we think, can develop into something that enables people to come in, take a look at the situation, and see how they can fit in. So those are some of the plans that we have. But the basic plan is to clean up the business environment, ensure that we ease up the way that people do business. For example, look at just company registration. We think that company registration can be done in a day. There's no reason why company registration should be difficult to do. If you look at Rwanda, is doing company registration in one day. There's absolutely no reason why we can't do that. We think also that we can ensure that for investments, all we need is a one-stop agency for investment. For example, look at investments in the power sector. Today, many people who want to invest in the power sector are finding it difficult to do so. Some have spent 3 years just trying to sign power purchase agreements, trying to sign gas purchase agreements and all of that. Because there's so many agencies. And what we think we need to do is to be able to streamline the agencies and do a one-stop agency for power sector investments. The other thing, of course, is corruption. The number of the toll gates that are all over the place. Corruption has to stop if we're going to be able to attract people to come and invest in Nigeria and to do business in Nigeria. Many people are just simply frustrated by the sheer number and the sheer amount of corruption, the sheer number of toll gates, as it were, where people have to pay bribes and pay tips and do all sorts of things. That's the sort of thing we need to work on to make the environment friendly, not just for us locally, but also for people coming from the outside. So those are the sorts of things that we think need to be done.